Hello, everybody, and welcome back to lesson 16 of class. We are almost done with logic. This lesson is called The Logic of Paying It Forward. Now, what does it mean to pay it forward? If you've never seen the movie Pay It Forward, well, it's a story about a young boy that every time he receives something, he's always paying it forward to somebody else, always somebody else, always somebody else, always somebody else. And, to me, I think that is almost the essence of Christmas. Now, let's get into it, shall we? So, what is karma and how does it play a role in paying it forward? Remember, class stands for creativity, logic, art, science, and spirituality. But how does it come together? Well, in some religions, it's called karma. Karma is do unto others as you shall have them do unto you. When they say you're going to get bad karma, it's normally pertaining to, well, the good or the bad that you put out into the world is normally going to come back to you either tenfold or so on and so forth. So, you might want to pay it forward. Now, I don't know who I'm talking to with this, but maybe you have a son that went to college or you have something thing and it put you in a bad mood. So you decided to take your anger, rage, and frustration out on somebody else. Well, what you want to do is pay it forward and turn that negative into a positive. So if you need a friend, I want to let you know you have a friend in me and a friend indeed. So let's get into it. If the love of money is the root of all evil, but money is sometimes called human capital, then what is the color of money and why do you love it so much? A while ago, there was a movie called The Color of Money. It was a hustler movie. And I think it was with Paul Newman and Tom Cruise, so on and so forth. And it was one of those things where it was just, what's everything worth? Is it worth it to be doing all of this? Or is it worth it to be buying the Christmas gifts that go underneath the tree? Is it worth it to buy the tickets to go to Disney and spend boatloads of cash? Well, it is because, well, once you get there, you don't complain about the experience. You actually enjoy the experience because you get to see the lights in the eyes of your child or the lights in the significant other when you go through that experience and enjoy every moment because you get to carry that memory forever. It's not like spending money on something that doesn't really mean anything, right? So remember, when it comes to paying it forward, we want to remember one thing. Let's recap to lesson 15. If you remember the story of Genie, who was forced to pay it forward, but when somebody did it for him, it was much appreciated forever. It was one of those things that when I saw it in the movie Aladdin, that it touched me in a way where if I was able to free somebody, I would. And that's probably one of the reasons why I went to the military, was because of the fact that I wanted to help people that were locked in a box or trapped somewhere, or they were getting close to danger and they didn't see it, but for some reason I could see and hear and feel some of the things that were going on, and I was able to guide them along the way so that I could steer them out of danger's path. So, getting back to the recap, once Genie found a real one, as they say, someone they call a true friend, Aladdin was always given help by the genie. Now, if you don't remember this, if you watch Aladdin, the first one, when he set the genie free, he's like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. I've never been free before, so on and so forth. But as the series continued with the second one and the third one, and this is going back to other ones, not the new Aladdin that came out because they haven't came out with the new sequels yet, but the genie was always in, not in debt, but because Aladdin paid it forward. You know what? You granted me two wishes. I got the girl of my dreams. I never cared about the money, so on and so forth. It was about the love that was there. Genie, you're free. And he was like, I'll always have your back, so on and so forth. Another example of this would be if you've seen the movie The Count of Monte Cristo. In The Count of Monte Cristo, there is a gentleman named Edmond Dantes, and after he escapes the jail, he runs into a group of pirates, and they set up a knife fight between a trader that ended up trying to steal some money for himself and keep it for himself and not share it amongst the crew. And then he had Edmond Dantes, and the only way Edmond Dantes was going to stay alive was if he got into this knife fight, because it was their way of determining, well, there's not enough boat spaces, so on and so forth. So let's see them fight to the death, and they get a little bit of action. Well, after the fight was over, Edmond Dantes ended up winning, and the man negotiated that they both live so that they both have two great knife fighters on the ship, and that way they can capitalize more. The men that wanted to see sport got it, and it was a benefit to everybody. The captain was so intrigued by this negotiation tactic, he took him on and called him Satara, which meant driftwood. Now, if you saw the movie, It was played by the gentleman who played in the movie Passion of Christ. And he's also in the movie Persons of Interest. Now, that character speaks a lot to me because of the way James goes and tells his story through his own eyes with the way he how do I say this? How he acts on stage or in front of a camera. But getting back to this, think of paying it forward as Christmas. What I mean is by excuse me. What I mean by that is you don't go to work just to get a gift for yourself. You'd normally go to work to get a gift for others. Now, the reason you do this is because, well, you want to pay it forward. You want to show appreciation. You want to show something. You want to have a connection. And remember, within creativity, we talked about one, but now we're going to make logic of the creativity. And now, with this storytelling and everything that I'm doing here, especially with Aladdin, we're getting into art. And as we move closer, we're going to start getting more complex. And I want you to understand this and understand it well. Eventually, one day, you will need someone, whether that's a pet, friend, or family member, to speak to, what's it called, when times are hard. And that's something that people don't have during this time of year. Why? Well, because some people will be more of a Scrooge, so on and so forth, and they will be all bah humbug. I don't want to do this. I don't want to know this. I don't want to blah blah blah. Who am I to do this and this, that, and the third? You have to put that aside, and you have to realize that everybody has a small child. I think it was Johnny Depp that once said, "We are all grown children looking for someone to guide us." And you know what? Some people that are in positions of power, sometimes that power can go to their head. Sometimes the money can go to their head, so on and so forth. And they could be like, who is this person that thinks they're going to speak to me this way, so on and so forth, etc., without remembering to humble themselves. Because during this time of the year, it's all about being humble. You remember the story of Scrooge? He had to get a rude awakening, what's it called, during the time of Christmas, and he got met by the ghost of Christmas past, and he had a rude wake-up call. Some of you in the spiritual community would call this an awakening, so on and so forth. He got to see a little bit and a glimpse of the other side and how things could be if he shifted or didn't shift at all. Now, after he experienced things that were, how do I say this, past, present, and future, and he saw the death and the people and the things that he could prevent but didn't, and chose to walk a different path, and the things that triggered him along the way, he was able to change his ways. And just like the genie, he was now indebted to everybody else, but not so much indebted as a negative term. He was trying to pay it forward to make amends for everything that he did before in the past. Now, this is something that is very beneficial once you understand it, because if you're in business, this is something that you're going to have to understand, because it's a two-way street. You're there to help one another, not to screw one another over. And then, of course, when you hire people and bring them onto your team, you're there to, well, take care of them. Because remember, we're all grown children looking for someone to guide us. And as the business owner or the leader of the company or the leader within the company, you are there to guide those that look up to you. So, wanted to let you know that Christmas to me is the art of paying it forward. Everybody complains about the long hours, everybody complains about this, that, and the third, but they don't know why they're doing it until the day comes. This is why, when I grew up in New York, Christmas was so special, because it gave people an excuse to actually be nice to one another. People normally were pretty much assholes along the way and called each other as such, not realizing the time that we are in, because most people don't have anybody there to, well, say Merry Christmas to actually spend time with, so on and so forth. Some people don't have family members. And those are the things that I look at, and those are the things I try to see and then step in and be the friend to that person. Let's say if you're, missing out on a gym buddy, so on and so forth, I'd be like, yo, let's go to the gym together. No, it's no problem. I'll go with you. I'll do your workouts, so on and so forth, etc. Or maybe you just want to talk and shoot the shit, so on and so forth. But most people are afraid to open up, because most of them are men. And most of the men in society are taught that I'm not supposed to act a certain way, because I'm supposed to be muscular and strong and this, that, and the third, instead of saying, yo, man, I love you. Or, hey, man, yo, let's go grab a drink. Or, hey, yo, let's go to the gym, blah, blah, blah. Let's be workout buddies. Or, hey, do you have a bro crush on this person, so on and so forth? Is that why you don't want to let them leave? Because I could see the inner child in you, and you want to be best friends. And I could almost see that smile right now as you're looking at this, saying, hey, you know what? This guy's kind of cool. He's all right, so on and so forth. Or as The Rock would say, You all right. You know, it's one of those things that you have to understand that the essence of Christmas is not just about receiving gifts, but about giving them as well. Now, why do I say Christmas is the art of paying it forward? Think of it as Mona Lisa's smile. If you ever seen that movie, everybody has seen the Mona Lisa, but nobody knows why it's so valuable, right? Everybody tells the story of the Mona Lisa, so on and so forth, and things like that, but nobody knows why it's so valuable. But the thing is, what if Da Vinci saw that Mona Lisa was a highly depressed woman that just needed to smile and feel beautiful for a moment, and therefore her picture resided in history forever? Because everybody needs a remembrance of what it's like to be appreciated or seen and heard and felt and understood by one individual. What would you do to feel like a child again, or to put a smile on the face of a child in order to bring happiness to one's life once more? Most people see get pleasure in other people's pain, and they don't understand that sometimes people are going through something that you know nothing about, and because of that, the more you pick at a scab, the more it's going to hurt. However, if you start asking questions, if you act like a genuine person and get off your high horse, walk up to the person, put your arm around them and say, you know what, man, I don't know where you're from, I don't know you, but I just want to give you a hug because I think you need one, so on and so forth. Or you state the obvious without stating the obvious, in other words, right? Or, you know what, I think we'd be great workout buddies, so on and so forth. I heard you're a good trainer, or I heard you're a good coach. I heard you were former military. I think we could work out together. I'm not, super big or anything, but I can tell you what, you go through one of my workouts and you're going to be breathing a lot. So just to let you know. But check this out. Moving forward, the reason I asked this question is because it's been written that in order to get into the gate into heaven, you must think with the mind of a child. However, over time, the mind has been calcified and matured and developed psychologically so that we do not think with the mind of a child, but that of a cluttered, calloused adult mind. What do I mean by this? Well, we all go to the gym, and with that, you develop calluses on your hands and so on and so forth. Therefore, these spots are no longer sensitive to the touch, right? Therefore, over time, the brain loses plasticity. And if you don't work out, if you don't do things that keep you in shape, so on and so forth, you'll lose that plasticity. And as they say, if you don't use it, you lose it, right? So on and so forth. So you have to move your body. You have to think of your body like a vehicle, right? If you let a car stay sediment, you don't drive it, you don't turn it on, you don't let the fluids move, so on and so forth, they're going to coagulate, so on and so forth, and then your car is going to get damaged. The same thing happens in the body, the same thing happens in the mind. Now, as we move forward, um, going back into, where is it? Genie and Aladdin, the reason why Genie helped Aladdin every time was because he gave Genie something that he was never able to obtain because of the greed that everybody had. You got 3 wishes? Okay. You get all the wishes you want as long as you have the lamp, I'm your slave, etc. But it took one real person, one true, genuine friend to say, you're free, right? And to release him from his bondage in order to free the oppressed, as they say, right? Because Genie was technically oppressed. He was attached to the lamp. He was a slave to whoever the owner was. And without the owner releasing him from his bondage, he was never able to do exactly what he wanted to do. He was always under the power of whoever owned the lamp. But do you know why? Think of Genie as Mona Lisa and her smile. This is why Genie always was and forever indebted to Aladdin. The reason why was because he gave him something that nobody could ever give him. He gave him the freedom, the ability to speak, whether it was in Spanish, Japanese, French, so on and so forth, etc. If you want to curse somebody out, curse them out, so on and so forth, etc. If it makes you feel better, then do so. Don't put your hands on them. But if you want to do so, right? Don't be scared, as the kids would say these days, right? What would you do to feel like a kid again and get away with talking smack? If you remember the movie Hook, right? The kids, the Lost Boys, they were all there together, so on and so forth, and they would talk smack at the dinner table and everything like that, but it was all out of play, right? And it all made them feel good, and it all gave them this essence, this feeling of, oh, it's okay to say what I want to say, and it's okay to talk smack back and forth, etc. And eventually, Pan remembered who he was and he was able to speak once more and fly again. So, what do I mean by all these things that I've been saying in this? Or should I say, how do I say that these things matter? Well, the combination of all these things that I taught in creativity and in the other lessons of logic come together to bring an understanding not only to art, science, and spirituality, but how it works together so that you have an understanding of all of it, not just an understanding or a specialization in one thing, so that you could stand upon your high horse and say, yeah, we got MasterCard, we got this, we got that, we got third, we got marketing. We don't need you for any of this. We're just going to set you aside. That's just being a pompous ass, quite honestly, and showing and flexing your power. Or as they say, I'm not going to say it, but you understand what I mean. So you cannot say I love you with an aggressive or arrogant tone just to make someone feel better, to show them motivation, as they say, or etc., just to get what you want. You have to genuinely mean it, and your vibration of energy that is sent by your voice will be received through the ear canal, and the brain receives that information, and they could tell by the tone and the pitch and how your body language is that you were genuine when you said it. Now, this is a little complex, but this is how my brain works. And I hope yours, if you're watching this, has started to speed up along the way. Because remember, this all started with a simple curved line, right? Now, if I were to do this and I were to bring this line up here, but leave that gap, what would you say that is? You would just say it's either a circle or an uncompleted circle or a curved line, so on and so forth. In psychology and law enforcement, they would tell you that this is the gap of the space in which that time starts to appear, and your brain will start to fit in different pieces. So let's say an accident were to occur. The more time between the occurrence and when you go to question the individual, the more your brain starts to fill in the gaps, as they say. So this is the thing I want to do for you is I want to fill in the gaps for you to make the connections so that we can be one. So some people might understand this as authenticity, but in order to understand authenticity, you must have the ability or the mind of a child, because it always speaks truthfully, unlike the mind of an adult that has been shown the horrors of the world and speaks from the position of defense, or i.e. fear, so on and so forth. If you ever heard the saying, it's too good to be true, then it probably is. Well, then you haven't gone out enough. You haven't met enough people, because I could tell you right now, I haven't been in great relationships. I've been in bad relationships. My last relationship was a headache. Even though it was a good person, it was a headache. But the one prior to that was amazing, so on and so forth. And because of that, I learned a lot. I learned what love was. I learned what connection was. I learned how to be free and be myself and see what was possible for me when I was starting my business. Now, I'm going to fast forward a little bit. So, for those of you who are practitioners of Bruce Lee, you know that he developed the way of fighting without fighting called Jeet Kune Do, or JKD. In order to beat your opponent, you must think like your opponent. This comes from the art of your studies, your whatever it is that you do, right? So let's say you're a creative, let's say you're an artist, let's say you're an attorney, let's say you're whatever. In order to beat your opponent, you must become and think like your opponent. But if you're not able to do so because you're so rigid and your brain has calloused over, then you're never going to beat your opponent, because he's always going to be able to outmaneuver, outthink, and outdo you, because of the fact that you don't know what he's like, or she is like, or what they are like, so on and so forth, etc. So you have to put yourself in their shoes. As they say, you don't know a man until you walk a mile in his shoes. Well, then you have to understand that you don't know someone until you actually walk in their shoes and understand what it's like to be them. Don't put yourself in their predicament, but experience it for yourself. Put yourself back there. If you're one of those people that say, oh, well, I was there, I did this, that, and the third, so on and so forth, etc., that quite honestly doesn't mean anything, because that was your experience. I'm telling you to put yourself in their shoes and then come back to me with proper answers, right? So, as you know, this was a little short, so on and so forth, but I want to get into this. So, I'm notorious for doing stuff. And at the end of every lesson, we talk about numbers, right? And how they all come together. Well, in mathematics, the number 16, a square number, is a perfect square, 4 times 4, so on and so forth. Fundamentals of geometry. If you ever studied mathematics, you would understand this, so on and so forth, as well as the binary system. In a binary system, it is represented with 16, the 10100001, so on and so forth, marking its importance in computing. And if you're into computing, then you understand exactly what I'm talking about. Then we have the hexadecimal system. This is 16 is the base of the hexadecimal number system widely used in programming and digital systems. So if you're working with AI, or if you're working with computers, if you're working with technology, you understand this to a certain degree. In science, 16 is the atomic number 16 is of sulfur, which comes from a volcano, so on and so forth, or water that has been sediment in pipes, so on and so forth. It gives this like rotten egg smell sometimes, etc. It's a crucial element in biochemistry and industrial chemistry. Excuse me. In physics or quantum mechanics, 16 can appear in symmetry groups or energy level calculations. In astronomy, the star constellation includes cataloged, what is it? What does this say? Many star constellations include systems cataloged under the numerical identifiers such as 16. In spirituality, 16 reduced down to 7 often is linked to introspection, spirituality, mysticism, and it is the symbolism or symbolizes karmic lessons. So you remember earlier when I mentioned karma, this is about the karmic lessons from me to you, so on and so forth. It also talks about personal growth, development, as well as divine wisdom. In tarot, for or you tarot or oracle card people, 16 is the tower, representing sudden change and awakening, so on and so forth. So if you're watching this right now and you mess with oracle cards, tarot cards, whatever you call them, remember the 16th, the tower, is of awakening. In Eastern philosophy, the Vedic astrology, the moon has 16 phases reflecting the completeness and cycles of growth. And then, of course, in humanity, we have sweet 16s, which is the symbolizing of transitioning to maturity for young women. In technology, data units, right, have a 16-bit computing significant milestone in technological evolution. So if you mess with technology, if you know about 16-bit chips, so on and so forth, or 16 bits, and then 32, and then 64, so on and so forth, when computers were coming out, 16 was another number there. In music and sound, the 16th note is the standard rhythmic notation contributing to complex musical patterns, so on and so forth. And then, of course, in geometry, we have a hexadecagon, I think I pronounced that correctly, which is a 16-sided polygon and appears in designs in architecture. What is this to me? Well, all this to me is to let you know is that we're all connected and everything is connected. As Da Vinci once said, everything, no matter how small or big, is connected to something. And without that understanding, you'll never understand the essence of Christmas and why a present underneath the tree is so valuable to the person that you're giving it to. This has been lesson 16. And remember, Christmas is the art of paying it forward. So if you enjoyed this, go ahead and smash that like button. Please subscribe, and I hope to see you in lesson 17. Till next time, my friends, take care. Have a great Christmas, and God bless you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.